There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no. Which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go. And we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
All right. Sorry, it always takes a million steps to get us on the air because everything works so well. So hello, everybody. We are so glad to have you here, be with our cousins once again at our super secret, top secret meeting of awesome socialism going on here. We'll try not to bum you out too bad. We actually have a couple of good stories. And as we are very lucky to be joined today with our own Mr. Mayor Jared, who is
We're gonna see what happens because, like, we had a bunch of Cox trucks, or I always get confused if it's Cox or Comcast because they both start with a C, and I think they're both internet providers. But I'm pretty sure we're Cox, and we had like a whole battalion of trucks just going down the whole street 2 days ago, going to every little juncture box they have, and but then like 4 hours after that, the internet went down again. So it's like, was that just unrelated? Are they just touching things? Are they trying to trick us into thinking they're fixing the internet? But it seems that since then we've had fewer breakdowns, so we're gonna see if I make it through this hour or not, and if I drop out, that's what it was.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I mean, anybody used to watching this show knows that we also have American internet, so we are not always able to come to you as smoothly as we'd like to be. One time, my internet went all the way down, and we had to call somebody out to come and tell us, because they've told us several times our junction box for our local area is like overloaded. And like literally like beyond capacity, and nobody will do anything about it. And the last person that went in there to work on somebody else's internet, smushed our connection in the door when they closed it, and it broke our connection. So somebody had to come out and fix that, and that was a whole mess. So we're gonna
currently we get like a credit back for we know how to talk to the freaking chatbot enough that they give us $3 back a day that we call. We pay $90 a month, so 3 times 30, like. We just get free internet for when it is up currently, so our hope is that once we are getting literally free internet, they'll go, okay, we gotta fix this because we're making zero money off of these people.
Right, yeah, for real. And that's yeah, that's like not a great consolation, but at least it's like makes you feel like something's happening.
Internet I do get is free technically, so okay.
Well, I mean, it should be like, it really should be a public utility at this point. You cannot run life at this point. You can't apply for jobs. You can't, in some cases, you can't get your medication or your food if you can't contact certain people. There's online, doctor's appointments. We live an online life. So we are basically just being scammed, and I'm sure I don't need to point that out to anybody, but like, you paying $90 a month is insane. I think I pay around $50, which I think is
a lot.
I'm
in a densely populated area too, so the fact that the internet has issues is just so strange. It's like, dude, there's tens of thousands of people that live within the mile of me. Well, not tens of thousands. It's a lot of people. I'm in the middle of frickin' Phoenix.
Right. Yeah. It's a densely populated area, and mine is too. For that, I don't know how they compare exactly, but You would everywhere. Where isn't, honestly? And except for just the rural locations, and that's still like the government needs to be covering this. And then they used to have right before Biden went into office, the government at that time was offering a credit, and I can't remember exactly what it was called now, but it was a credit that you could call up and say like, hey, I need this credit, and they're like, no problem, and they give you the credit, and then they just let it lapse. And right prior to the election, which I know was not, and this was nationally available, but I know it was not a coincidence that they were trying to censure people's, especially poor people's, access to the internet during an election, a pretty critical election. So that's gone and probably will never come back until there is enough of a push from people to nationalize internet. And they will probably try to sabotage it and be like, this is what happens, for as long as they could possibly get away with, before people are like, it was fine before, it could be fine again, fix it. So, and I mean, look at other countries, honestly. Like, I hate to keep doing that all the time, but it's like, do you think China's internet works this way? No, the fuck, it doesn't. Or like literally anywhere else. Like,
or you could go worse and go to like Germany's internet, which is worse than ours and more expensive.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
parts
we have
of Europe,
our world traveler's opinion here. Who can let us know who's got the best and worst internets? But
parts of Europe are a bit ridiculous. But you get into Asia, and it's like, why don't we have, like, you had the streamer, what was his name, Speed, who did like a month of streams in China, and his stream didn't go down once, and he's just like on just a wireless. He's just walking around with like 4 different phones all going. It's like crisp 4K streaming for 9 hours at a time, no problems. It's like, how are they doing this? I can't get across our, like, what is this, 720, just getting anything, just enough connection to get my freaking camera through. Ow.
Yeah, I think that's what we're both on standard def. But I mean, at least you can see us most of the time. It's like that. I think that's the best hope that anyone here can have at this point. But it does definitely, especially some of the stuff we're going to be talking about later in the hour about what's going on in DC with Trump basically really being out of control. But really, he is a product of what has been happening for decades at this point in American government. So he is to blame right now because he's the one doing it, but he is the product. He's the result of all of this really bad policy happening. Shout out to the chat. Hey to Time Traveler, one of our regular viewers. Hey to Nathan. Nathan says, Jared, your hair is gone.
It is. I have removed a lot of it, it's not fully gone, but
haircut.
Now that I'm like partially bald, now that I'm pretty bald, I don't like having, because now just like the sides grow and it makes it look worse. And really it's that I don't want to have to deal with my hair at all. I want to be able to wake up and not have to shower to get my hair like fully. I have like 2 inches of hair and it'll manage to, all right, we're just going to stick straight out from this side of my head. So if I shave it down short enough, it just can't do that, which is the biggest reason.
Well, if it works, it works. And so he's missing some hair, but he's feeling fancy and free of having to deal with it. So that's pretty great.
Especially with so hot. Might as well shorten.
Yeah, for sure. And so we got a kind of a mixed bag of stories today. If you
we have
kind of talk shit here in the opening of the show, we love to warm up and kind of talk. And sometimes we're both kind of running into things, and we're like, all right, we're going to talk about this. Okay, go. We get on, and we don't really have a chance to talk. So sometimes you're going to be listening to us just talking to each other. So welcome. And of course, we love to hear from you, so you can talk to us in the chat if you've got questions, comments, that kind of a thing about what's going on. We're glad to have you here in our secret meeting, in our top secret clubhouse, having a good time. No jerks allowed. We got, like I said, about 100 times now, we got a kind of a mixed bag going on here for you. Because we actually have a couple of good stories, some well-natured stories recently. Now, I just sent Jared the video, but I did not look at the man's name. But there was someone who just got, you guys probably saw the video, and we'll show it. But he got owned at his own town hall.
Congressman Flood. His name is Flood.
Oh, yeah. Real familiar guy. Everybody knows that guy. So that he got owned at his own town hall over healthcare. Not that they give a shit. They just pick some loser to go out there and take the brunt of things.
I'm shocked they do any town halls anymore. Like, if you look at those stats, basically nobody does town halls anymore because that's where you go to scream at people because they're messing up. And they're not going to do anything about it. So,
no.
The shtick I'm always on, which is we do not have a democracy until we actually have some kind of democratic rule. Nothing can get done in any direction, good or bad. So, like, every once in a while, I don't know why they send out a chump to just get massacred. Like
Yeah,
sent
they really do. It's a lamb to slaughter. I mean, they really just send them out there to take, like the real brunt of things. But then that means that they can be like, we're at the town halls, and then and the Democrats do the same thing. Like it's all nonsense. But that's been going on. But another turn of it. This is kind of Jared's hour today because Tucson and his neighboring Tucson, the town banded together and told Amazon to eat shit, at least for now. And they were able to keep a data center from being built in their jurisdiction. So like that really, I think probably everybody should be taking notes on that one. I know that Indiana is planning like 5 or 6 across the state. We know that we do not just we Indiana, but we in United States do not have the electrical infrastructure for that. We know it poisons water. We know we don't have the water infrastructure for that already. So it's like but they don't care. They'll just keep doing it, and then they offer the city enough money that they finally just change the laws until these town halls don't even matter. So we will see. I think this. I keep trying to say Tucson. This when you look at it, it looks like Tucson. But this Tucson story could go either way. This could be the start of something, or they just keep changing the rules until they get what they want. So we're going to see about that. And also we really elephant in the room here. What's happening in D.C. and with Trump, who's really spoiled emperor king at this point, trying to. I don't even really know
for him
how
to
to
arrest
explain it at
Obama.
this point.
When's he arresting Obama? I was told we're arresting Obama. When is that happening?
Oh, thank you, Nathan, who said this podcast is one of their highlights of the week. We appreciate that. We appreciate that very much. So thank you for joining us. Tell your friends. Yeah. So no, we don't have any sponsorships. That's why you don't see any commercials, and we also don't like that kind of shit. So we're basically word of mouth at this point. So thank you. Yeah. So let's just get into it. Let's see a congressman get owned. That's at least pretty fun.
It's a good week for me, like you were saying, because remember while you're watching these clips that this is Nebraska. This is not California or Massachusetts. This is quote-unquote deep red Nebraska. Let's do the short one first, and I have like a more elongated clip after.
We've had this conversation before. We've got Medicare now. We can start rolling back the age 5-10 years at a time.
So they do a town hall with Congressman Flood, and healthcare is the big topic. You'll see some wide shots of the room, but it's primarily really old white people, and you can see why maybe they would be concerned that their healthcare is getting taken away, especially at this stage in their lives.
Would you support that?
We can't afford that.
Why did you cut SNAP and healthcare research?
We do not have unlimited money in the United States.
You can see where and I love that he didn't even say he just said, well, we don't have unlimited money. People are just boo, because they know what that means. It's all just the dodge of things cost money. Remember though, if you listen to the nonsense I say every week, money is not created by taxes. The government is not funded by taxes. If the government wants more money, they just ask a bank to make money. Oh, that's called the Fed.
Real.
They technically run a bank, but they don't run a bank because the Fed is a private bank, even though it's the Fed, right? Federal, it's got to be that. No, it's not our actual central government-controlled bank. It is a private bank that can do basically whatever it wants. But if the government wanted to fund healthcare tomorrow, all they have to do is invent whatever the number they say it's going to be, invent that number on a spreadsheet, and then pay for it. And you could, along with that, tell all these various medical companies that you will no longer be paying $6,000 of insurance for a Band-Aid. You will be paying 6 cents. You can be the biggest negotiator of medical prices possible, because the government is, even without government-funded socialist whatever healthcare, without universal healthcare, they are the number one spender of healthcare. 50-something% of all of big pharma's money just comes from payouts from the government of paying people's insurance. So we already pay the money, and they could tomorrow say, guess what, we're now paying out half of that for that drug, or a quarter, anything. They can name a price, and the manufacturers would have the options of meeting that price or going out of business. It's such a solvable thing. But we all know why that can't be done, because those very people who I'm proposing cutting the amount of money we're sending to, they are some of the biggest funders of people in the government. They are the real government, actually. Like, they get to decide our healthcare policy because they are the biggest players in the medical industry.
That's the whole thing. They are paying for the privilege to do it, and that is how we got here in this. There's been a little bit of, I'm going to let him get to his next clip, but I do want to point out that some people have recently brought up that, like, Reagan takes all the heat, and rightfully so, but Clinton really, really put neoliberalism on the map here. Like, he really, hit engage and turn things into what they are now. So I think those two working in tandem, we all hate Clinton for the obvious reasons, but I think maybe we need to be looking about, playing Monday morning quarterback on that too as well, and looking back on some of the horrible shit that he's done to this country. Yes. And did you want to play that other clip?
Here's a longer one, which has, I think, like one of the same, but a couple other examples what we're talking about. 3, 2, 1, let's do it.
It talks about 2 big changes to the Medicaid program. One of those changes is that if you are able to work and you are able-bodied, you have to work. If you choose not to work, you do not get free health care. You do not get free health care.
Nebraska voters.
Okay.
All right, okay.
So here's a question.
Let's try this now. How about you
So
about
here's
this?
a question. Do you think that people who are 28 years old that can work and refuse to work should get free health care?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think that a majority of Nebraskans agree with you. It talks about.
And why is this
They do,
significant?
bro.
Why is this significant? Because, like I'm saying, the will of the people is not reflected in our government. We supposedly have a representative democracy, but we do not have representatives that represent us. The initial American Revolution was about taxation without representation, and we have that currently. And I'm kind of predicting that within the next decade or so, these contradictions are coming to such a head now, it will stop be just like complaining at town halls and like will be something more.
Man, wouldn't that be something though? Like, let's talk about that a little bit, because we could probably do a whole show about that just standing alone here. But like, combined with other things that we're talking about here, about another town banning a data center, at least at the present, fighting Amazon, one of the biggest corporations in the world, and at the same time in Washington D.C., which was denied statehood and put off by Biden. Like, oh yeah, no, if we did that, we'd have to do Puerto Rico, and those Browns are out there, and we don't want that. Like the way he behaved about everything all the time, and complete corporate tool. Just like every single one of them is. So it's like we are in a real big fascist spiral here, and that was the essential entire point of the American Revolution. And it's hard to sit here and talk about something that happened 300 some years ago and be like, oh yeah, we need to do that again. That was a good idea. Like, they knew what they were doing, but they were right. This is the response to fascism. So I personally feel like, and I've said before, that Americans don't have a breaking point. And maybe that's an apathetic point of view. I don't know. Maybe I could be told differently. Maybe people could convince me otherwise. I do see some sort of leadership, figures arising. We've talked quite a bit about Christian Smalls being someone that, to keep your eye on. If you're not following him, you should. But, you can't dump all that on one person or a few people, because we know the left really has no leadership and spends all of its time infighting. So that... I feel like they're, and that's something I personally have ranted about on some of my solo shows, is like, quit. I don't care if somebody talks to a MAGA. Like, okay, like this show, right? If are we going to make fun of and disparage MAGAs and liberals? Yes, all the time, viciously. We hate you. But if you are the kind of person who feels like you are now disillusioned from that belief system and want to move on to something else that makes more sense for our modern lives, and also your own life to stop being garbage, then we are the people you want to listen to, and other people who are smarter than us. That is, welcome. Come on over. Come to the clubhouse. That's what we're all about here. Grab your snacks and your drinks. But that I think I'll let you talk about this. But you sound more hopeful about some kind of resolution, and I'd like to know what you think that would look like, because I just don't. I don't see it happening. I see America just bending and bending and bending and bending and bending. And when we have reached a breaking point, we bend some more. So, like, what does that look like to you?
The thing that that gives me hope in all of this is that we are told constantly how unreconcilably divided everyone in the U.S. is. Half of us are told that the other half are super evil for this reason, and then the other half is told, well, they're super evil for like the opposite reasons. They will, like, literally, like, oh, they want to take your kids. Well, when it comes down to it, when we go to actual bread and butter kitchen table, whatever you want to call them, like economic issues, because that's what healthcare is. It's not even really about the healthcare; it's about the economics. We care about our health. The healthcare is such a contradiction in the U.S. because it's not about getting reason. It's that if you go to the doctor, you're bankrupt. It's that it ruins your life financially. That it makes it very difficult to like keep being an actor in society. Like, if you have a bad enough of a healthcare emergency, you're kind of just out. Oh, you're homeless now. Like, you're kind of like off of the table, which isn't good for anyone. It's certainly not good for your nation's economy. Like, it's you get beyond the humanity part of when we are injured or sick, we should be taken care of. The cold hard number parts is it isn't good for it's not good for your boss. Like, these companies should not be paying for our health insurance. Like, we shouldn't have this employer run health insurance, because like that's an expense that I don't think frickin' Walmart should be responsible for. I don't think they should be responsible for my healthcare. I think doctors should be responsible for my healthcare. The entire point of having a government, like an organized central thing, is to make to lower the cost. When we talk about a free market, we want a market that is free from unnecessary expenses. That's why we have public education, because otherwise, I guess your job has to teach you how to read.
Yeah, what's the future of the bad education now? I'm asking people, like, what is, like,
it's why we have roads and electric.
Like, what is the future? Have you been hearing about them teach? I've heard a lot of teachers saying this now, that content in teaching reading at all levels, basically context clues, teaching the concept of context clues is off the table now, out of the curriculum. So, and I have done a lot of educational work myself, but I write curriculum. That's one of the things that I do, but I haven't seen that in particular yet. Also, I am unemployed. I've been for quite a while, because now they just let AI do everything. But
there's definitely an issue with literacy, and then you can, depending on how sad you want to think about it, it's like, is that on purpose? Are they intentionally making people dumb, or is it just a knock-on effect of trying to marketize education? You could say that, I mean, you pretty easily go with, frickin' what's the previous Secretary of Education, DeVos, like Betsy DeVos's family has millions and billions of dollars invested in charter schools and private schools, so maybe they have a concerted interest in making public schools as bad as possible to increase enrollment in charter and private schools. Maybe that's entirely on purpose. Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's entirely on accident. Whoops, it accidentally benefits the people who made the rules. One way or the other, the people who benefit are, I guess, private education now, where if you want to have a decent education at all, like, I would recommend people send your kids to frickin' Catholic school, because at least they will learn how to read. Like, they will maybe learn something.
And I've been saying that, not Catholic, he would know better than me, but I have heard that Catholic schools do have a good education. And back in the 70s, during, in the big cities during white flight, that's what they were doing, is people were enrolling their kids into Catholic schools to get them away from integration. So I don't know how that really plays into this necessarily, but I also have been advocating for getting your kids out of schools, but that is an ableist point of view, because all this is going to do is continue to hurt and marginalize the poors. And who is mostly made up the poors is, people of color, immigrants, and that kind of a thing. And yes, of course, whites are poor too. Everybody's doing bad right now. I don't want to gloss over that. Everybody's doing really bad. I didn't necessarily grow up poor, but I was very close to the poverty line. And I went to a dog shit school, and with a terrible education, when in the same city down the road, in two different ways, was a Catholic school that was excellent and world renowned, and another school that was excellent and world renowned. with that was basically a magic school. We us poors were like, whoa, I can't believe this. But we were at the stupid old established school where everything was dog shit, and it was essentially still Christo-fascism. The area I've grown up in, as I have as little to do with it as possible at this point, but growing up in it was just a nightmare. And I don't know what it's like now, but it does feel like people with kids are out of options when it comes to your education. But I don't know what it's like now, but when I was growing up, and I think probably people before, I went to school in the 90s as a kid, and then in the aughts as an older kid, but I know that my parents had almost zero investment into what I was doing at school every day. And that was not unique to them. That was like the culture. Parents were just like, go to school. You have to do school, go to school. Like whatever was going on, unless there was conflict, it didn't really, whatever they were teaching you didn't matter. It was not important. They were not paying attention. They were just letting someone else handle it. Now, I don't know what that's like nowadays with millennials as parents, and Gen X's parents, but back in the day, they did not pay attention, like zero attention to what you were being taught. They just assumed it was correct, which I definitely think is a problem. So if that mentality is persisting, parents really do need to. I know you got your own shit going on and life is hard, but if you have kids are your priority, and you need to be in charge of their education, like full stop. You need to be figuring out if they can fucking read. First of all, you need to know that they can do math. You need to know who's teaching them what. And I'm not getting right wing about like don't let them know a gay, gender pronoun. No, none of that shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying you need to know if they can do basic math skills when they should be able to do basic math skills. And that's everybody. That's across the board. That's not got to do with any kind of economic standing. If you're super poor, you still need to pay attention to this. If you're super rich, you still need. Well, probably not. They could just coast, but you need to be paying attention, people. That's what I grabbed like the country by the shoulders and say. You need to know what your kids are doing at school. They're just there to be babysat so you can work. Nathan Coyote in the chat says, I live in West Virginia. The school system here sucks. I believe you. I know that it's nationwide. I just use my experience as an example because I don't live in Virginia. I live in Indiana, so I could talk about my experience. And Jared also has quite a bit of experience with the school system. But we're kind of getting away from what we wanted to talk about. But this is a whole issue. The country, and as Jared sees it, is coming to a head. I see it as just more bending. But I'd like to see people get together. That's why we are big advocates of general strikes. People don't understand. They're like, but I need groceries. Yeah, everybody does. How that works is somebody, we get together and we say, this week or this next 2 weeks, nobody shops at Amazon. We'll see how they like that. And then if enough people get involved in that kind of a thing, you have all these, I know people live in food deserts, but you have other options for the most part. And if you have to do what you have to do, obviously don't starve. But it's just like, okay, now this time we go after Target. Now this time we go after Kroger. And, these things can be done. Credit card strikes can be done. Loan strikes can be done. It can be done. But I feel like people are just like too fragmented and too wrapped up in their own lives, which is by design, to be able to do anything. Why don't you have you want to say some words?
So if you're in Nebraska and you're having what we would call definitely economically left thoughts, because clearly there is support at least in that room, and because these things just keep replicating themselves over and over across the country. Like, where do you turn? What is the party that you can go to try and achieve economically left, economically populist goals? As soon as anybody, that's what MAGA is supposed to be doing. They should. It would be extremely funny to see people who are traditionally thought of as right wing passing the Democrats on the left, because that just that's happened a few times now. Where people are so desperate for any kind of win of it, I would love to have some of these states put more stuff up for direct votes, which is why it doesn't happen every time. As I continually talk about, abortion comes up to a vote. It either passes or it's in a state that has rules that subvert the will of the people, like in Florida, where 56% of Floridians who voted to abortion, yes, but sorry, in Florida, your propositions have to have a 60% threshold to pass. So yes, the majority of people voted for it, but no, it did not happen. So if you're looking for left-wing things, like if you ask a mainstream person for what's the most left thing you can join or do, because it's not really a party. I'm talking about the DSA. I'm talking about the Democratic Socialists of America, and it looks like this is a positive headline, but give me a second here. Largest U.S. socialist organization passes resolution supporting Palestinian resistance. I know this isn't healthcare, but I could have brought up a clip that was in, I think, Arkansas, where it was a congressperson, another town hall where you have in a state, Arkansas, that is considered not left, not blue, whatever, where they are demanding answers for why they're sending all of their money to Israel. Why are we sending all this money to blow up children? And you know, it's very emotional. People are like, there's children, don't you care? Don't you have a soul? And, you know, things that I completely, I get why they're yelling that way. But again, economically, why are we spending all of this money over there? Like, I try to make things non-emotional, non-moral issues, even though these are very much moral and emotional things. I feel emotionally about them. If I want to talk about policy, why are we sending money? Like, that's why I continue to bore down to economics, because you get a lot of agreement when you make things about numbers rather than culture war bullshit. So we have the DSA passing resolutions about Palestine and Israel, and the DSA, the largest socialist organization in the United States, passed a resolution on Sunday that supports the Palestinian right to resist and makes supporting Israel an expellable offense. The resolution, which passed with and here's the point, 56 to 43 vote. So 43% of voting members, they're doing their big convention right now. That's what this vote is coming from. So it's not just like of members. This is of voting members, like delegates, who are sent to the DSA's convention. Biennial. I think they do it every 2 years. It's like biannual. It's like, is that twice a year or every other year? I think it's every other year for DSA's convention, because it's been a little bit since we had some memes coming out of it. The DSA famously cannot get their shit together in any way that does not make them look super embarrassing and ineffective, which I believe is entirely the point, to be super embarrassing and ineffective. I think it should be extremely embarrassing, damning even, party dissolving worthy, actually, if 43% of your voting delegates, so not just regular rank and file DSA people, this is leadership. Leadership, 43% of them did a pro-Zionist vote in your leftist party. That's it, baby. Pack it up. Here is more evidence that the DSA is not an honest organization. Again, this is from the top, not the people who are in it. Most of the people in DSA are lovely that I have met. The leadership, the organization itself, was set up to be an anti-communist sieve, like a net to catch, not the opposite of a sieve, a net to catch anybody who's going, oh man, I really want to achieve these specific left-wing goals. Let us join the organization. Oh, Bernie Sanders, he's the most left person possible. What's he associated with? Which is also funny, he's not a DSA member. Frickin' Zohan whatever is not a DSA member. He's just endorsed by them, and the first moves he made after like securing his primary win was to invite in a bunch of Democrat just party insider people. Great first step. People who have straight up the opposite ideas of the policies that he supposedly goes for. The DSA exists explicitly from the founder on as an organization to prevent socialism from getting any kind of power or hold in the U.S. 43% of the DSA's leadership voted for a pro-Zionist position in this case. Like, and I see people get on Twitter and go, well, you see, we have to all come together. Isn't it crazy how the thing we all have to come together about is this? Well, you have to just accept that 43% Hitlers are in your party. Just 43%. It's only 43%. And then people talk about, well, shouldn't those members be purged? No, don't be ridiculous. We all have to learn to work together. They only will ever work together with people who want to do the opposite of the core. Like, I understand working together, but when the working together is, I think we should do the thing. I think we should do the opposite of the thing. There's not a work together there. That's you're here either as an invader or to wreck. Like, are you a wrecker? Are you here to intentionally fuck up the process of getting anything done? There was another resolution before this one, because this is like a softer version of that resolution, where, sorry, it failed because 64% of voters were like, that's a little bit too harsh on Israel. Like, woo! I feel personally kind of betrayed by this because, as I've said many times, I went from like Obama to Bernie to, okay, Bernie sucks also. So when I see the DSA, it's looking at my former organization, I guess, because I did frickin' knock on doors, not for them, for the Democratic Party, of course, but it was the DSA that organized me into going and knocking on doors for who? The Democratic Party. The DSA, as long as they still will not claim independence from the Democratic Party, even though they claim that, like they'll say, no, we're not an arm of the Democratic Party, they continue to function as such, and as long as that is reality, the DSA is not only unhelpful, it is counter-helpful. It is reactionary would be the word in leftist discourse.
Yes, and that's absolutely true. And we have said many times, we own it. We would not be here if we didn't, pass on from being shit libs at first. We went from, Democrats to, or independents perhaps. I don't really know if I ever was any one thing. I have a kind of a checkered voting history. I've been voting since I was 18, so sometimes things were a little bit, I don't know what I was doing. But and also you get into where you were in a lot of really rock and hard place situations with the votes. But then you gradually, a lot of us, we migrated, we drink the Bernie juice, and we ended up going that direction. And then we find out Bernie's a fraud and part of the Democratic Party, shilling for the Democratic Party, just like the DSA. And then a lot of us are like, oh, DSA is cool, and it seems like a pretty big organization. We find out it's fake and it's bullshit, and it's just a front for the Democrats, a different arm of the Democratic Party doing Democratic dirty work. And then we end up here on the hard left. We're like, okay, actually things can be better. They should be better. This is really stupid. And that's how you end up here. So we don't mind the people knowing, that's not something that we hide about our background. We wouldn't be here if, like a lot of people, we weren't disillusioned over and over and over again, and then realizing, actually there is no time. We are out of time, and incrementalism is bullshit, and everything that comes out of a Democrat's mouth is bullshit, and it's all completely fake.
They have had 100 plus years to incrementalize ourselves into a better future, and overall it has gotten worse.
And why is it never the time? Why is it never the time to discuss these things? Why is it always so possible for Republicans to get in and just rip through the goddamn country doing whatever the hell they want, like right now, and Democrats are powerless to stop them? Democrats get in, have a super majority, and they can't do shit. They can't even get a guy elected to the stupid whatever Supreme Court. Why are they so powerless all the time? Because they are both arms of the same body. Republicans and Democrats are the same. We really can't stress that enough. And
two wings, a bird has two wings. You need both wings to be able to fly. So.
Quite exactly. And that's why we want to move away from this broken system altogether. Now, I do understand the impetus of people to get behind somebody like Zoran Mandani, because he seems rad, right? Because of what you've been exposed to. But this guy, I think more and more we're seeing, is a Democratic op. I don't feel like I don't necessarily think he's a bad dude, but we're now put in a position where like he's going out and he's filming videos with Elizabeth Warren, who has a terrible reputation, who's an absolute snake, and everybody hates her. That's not for his benefit. That's for her benefit. Okay.
If you remember, Liz Warren, the way that it all went down to make sure Bernie couldn't get in office and give us that whole one federal day of time off, which is all that would have come out of it. Like, there's no way that he would have gotten universal health care through, et cetera, et cetera. He probably could have gotten through 1 day of federally recognized time off, like medical leave, maybe. But instead of that, the Democratic Party had everybody drop out of the primary at the exact same time, except for who? Elizabeth Warren, the only other candidate that would possibly split the vote in the Bernie thing. And that's after Liz Warren got on TV and said that Bernie told her that a woman can't be president.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Remember that shit? The Bernie bros, how Bernie people hate women. Meanwhile, 60% of Bernie's support was women. Like, And then Bernie, after all of that, just still gets on TV, says, "Thank you very much, Master," and fucking does whatever they want. Like, he says anything they want him to say. Israel has a right to defend itself. I wouldn't call it a genocide. Like, all this fucking horse shit.
Yeah,
Last year, DSA unendorsed Representative AOC for her support of funding the Iron Dome, an Israel defense system, and a definition of anti-Semitism that considers Zionism a protected class. Remember what AOC was? I wasn't convinced he was a quote op until I'm reading these lines. Where is it here? They talk about like how Mamdani is part of the socialists, and they're doing the squad again. AOC was the squad, and now the squad has splintered, and they do not vote together as a bloc. They did not quote force the vote on Medicare for all, a thing that the Republicans kind of did on some other shit. Like, remember the whole like, force the vote won't work. We can't possibly force the vote, and then the Republicans get in office and immediately start forcing votes using the exact same DSA endorsed strategy. Oh, here it is. The DSA's state socialists in office. A 9-person block of DSA block. Oh, look, like a squad, a 9-person squad of DSA endorsed officials elected to office. Mamdani is not even a DSA member. He's just a straight capital D Democrat. But you're supposed to like. It's this like they're two things at once. Schrodinger's socialist, where it's like yes, they like the DSA, but they're not in it, and they don't say anything that we could consider socialist other than just like completely boilerplate Dem opinions. Now I kind of am thinking, I'm like, okay, this guy is just fake.
Well, I understand the excitement. It was nice to have a really good, day where everybody was real happy on the internet for a minute. And I do understand that, like, we still kind of in some ways have to participate in the broken system. But you can't keep putting all your hopes and dreams on these people, okay? Yeah, yes, he is the better choice if your choice is Eric Adams or Andrew fucking Cuomo. Yeah, obviously he's the one. Right? But then he would not at this stage of things, even with widespread person support, grassroots, right? He would not be able to contend with those people without the money, the resources that the Democrats and the provide. They're just doing it in a shadow way. Like, oh, you guys hate dark money? Guess who's, this whole thing is based around. And now he's out there using Democratic, people who are in the Democratic orbit to help run his campaign. He's not in office yet. He hasn't won anything but a primary. Okay. And
he's still out there saying Israel has the right to exist. Please don't be mad at me, AIPAC. Please don't run candidates against me, Mary Nicholson or whoever.
And now we're seeing Donald Trump and Andrew Cuomo unite forces.
Oh, of course.
And oh yeah, you didn't hear that one? Now, two people who had always been imaginary WWE odds with each other.
They're both New York State fucking criminals. They're both New York State gangsters.
Yes. Yeah, they particular have known and hated each other or pretended to for a long time. And that's what we really ended up with at this point. Now they're uniting. So you guys good with that? No. And I'm not blaming people for not feeling like there's nothing else for you to do. If I was in New York, I probably would have gone out in the primary and voted for him as well. Because we're fed this line, and we've always been fed this line about you vote for the lesser evil, right? Okay, if you're voting for the lesser evil, somebody still is 99% Hitler. Okay,
for evil.
That's where we are. And then that kind of brings us into, something we really, I think, have to. I'm not sure where we are in the stage of this, but we know we are in a fascist downslide. We know we are. Even if you don't know what that word means and you're too afraid to ask at this point, it means bad. It's not necessarily the Hitler Germany model because, that was its own kind of a thing, but it's not that either. And then with somebody at the helm like Trump, who is a know-nothing, wannabe dictator, right? Who doesn't know how law works, doesn't understand anything to do with constitutions or legal rights, and who is surrounded himself with people who allow him to mow right over those things. That's how we end up now him essentially exuding martial law over Washington D.C. Now Washington D.C. is not a state. Maybe this would have changed if he was, but basically. We know that with this propagation of ICE, which is out of control, and they're offering insane benefits too at this point. And I want to preface all of this is it is currently trend. I have Twitter in the background right now. It is currently trending Epstein distraction, right? Every version of this is because people somehow have united on the fact that everything that's happening, all of this is a distraction. And
everybody knows immediately. Like we're told how stupid everybody is all the time. We're like, I don't think people are that dumb. They seem to get that immediately.
They all know. Okay, like you go out and think about your stupidest MAGA relative or neighbor, right? And if they believe it, right, and you believe it, and you think that you're not that, like we have united on something.
That's just
like
an easiest litmus test in the world for MAGA people who actually mean it, and MAGA people who just really, who are either like making money off of it or just really personally like Donald Trump for some reason, which seems to be the minority of people I talk to. If they don't, if they're being like, well, the Epstein list is some fake Democrat nonsense. It's not even. It's like, okay, sorry, you don't really mean. You're not actually America first. You're an Israel first sycophant who just will. Those are people I would actually call cultists. But most people I know who voted in that president wanted no wars, the release of the Epstein list. Some people really cared about that beforehand, and all these other economic things that just aren't happening. Doge didn't cut shit. The military budget is bigger than ever.
Oh, no. You know what about Doge? They cut everybody out at the IRS, like 80% of them or whatever. They're hiring those motherfuckers back right now. Like that's the thing that's happening. So yeah, everything that they have done will be undone, even by this, So it's all smoke and mirrors. It has been all this time. And now that he's
not even deporting that many people compared to the previous president.
Right. They're trying. They can't keep up the numbers. That is the thing. They
just do more fucked up ones that get on TV, but the numbers are way down.
Yes. And that's where they have set some sort of ridiculous goal for themselves to try to outdo the previous administrations, meaning Obama and Biden.
But all the companies are like, stop, we need our slaves. You can't do that. We need our slave labor.
Absolutely. But you don't see them going after the corporations, employing people as slaves. You see them persecuting the slaves, essentially. That's where we really are in this. And it's just because of optics. He's trying to seem like he's like, this law and order dictator, worship me with fear president. Whereas the reason nobody gave a shit while this was going on when Barry and Biden were doing it is because they were doing it quietly and with decorum and cute smiles and nice suits and good speeches. And are we
good guy
gone again?
The good guy presidents. Oh, it might actually be
they were the good guys. Is it me? Okay.
I don't know. If you can still hear me, good. That's good news. Oh, you just on my screen. Your video fast forwarded. Now you're back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like it caught up. It's. I think it's both. It's both of us. They're trying to silence us.
I was just about to talk.
After us.
I'm in here about to start talking about Michael Harrington.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about here in general. Is this really is out of control, and that's why we may be at a tipping point. We may continue to watch this happen for a while. Now, every revolution that ever took place throughout history, I don't want to say every single one. I'm not a super expert on this. I just know stuff. But mainly the main ones, right? It took sometimes years. It took Rome like 500 years to fall, right? So there are, there's a lot of, when people say we're in end-stage capitalism, I say that's the exact wrong terminology. That indicates we're at the end. We're not at the end of anything. We're at a point that might be a little bit inconvenience to the 1%.
These are the things that would get me flagged on YouTube. I'm not saying it because I'm encouraged or happy about these things, but the contradictions are getting to a point. And as you're saying, like there is no unified, the way that before China had its communist revolution, there were all kinds of like rebellions and fights because Japan was there just like colonialisming the shit out of China the whole time, like the century of humiliation you may have heard of, sort of like the Opium Wars and stuff, where England was like militarily enforcing drugs going into China, the opium specifically, and that was So like there were various upstarts that were not quite revolutions but rebellions, attempts at revolution, and what actually like kicked it off is when they got their shit together and Mao did a long march and blah blah blah, World War II. I think that the way stuff changes in the US, because we are coming to not at the end of capitalism, but the end of like the immiseration of the American people. We don't even freaking recognize how broke we are. The rest of the world looks and they're like, oh, well, you won't do anything because you have all these nice things. I'm like, fewer and fewer people every day have any of the nice things. You no longer get paid off. Like in the 80s, shit was basically how it is now, but you would get paid off. You, the middle class person, got your house and your car and a couple of benefits, and you could retire at some point and you'd probably have cancer from breathing in whatever, and like your back would be destroyed. But you did get to retire, and you can, get addicted to painkillers and have a great life.
Right.
But that is no longer happening. So I think we are going to approach some kind of civil war, and it's going to be people who actually give a shit about America versus the united Republicans and Democrats, who people are like, no, we need to return to our wonderful order. We need to, you're gonna have
return to civility, and that's exactly what we're going to see in this next election. I have been, and I have been. I was wrong about it last time, but I'm putting my money on Gavin Newsom. And I think that
I think Buttigieg or Hunter Biden. Weirdly,
oof.
They've been doing interviews with Hunter Biden that are clearly the like, hey, could he run for office? Like those kinds of interviews. They're like, what's your vision for? And it's like, wait, what? Are we gonna do Hunter Biden?
I honestly just think that like 0.0 people would support him.
I used to be a drug addict, but I dealt with that. We've had some hard times here in America, but I'm proof that we can reform and we America can. Like, I can totally see a Hunter Biden campaign attempt. I don't think it'll win.
Maybe I'll run at it, but I think people would think it was too much parody and be like, we are not doing this.
The only way you get Trump is through an Obama presidency disappointment where he did nothing, so then you get this big backlash. And now how do you get another Democrat back in office? Through all this Trump shit. Like, we're only in year 1 and people hate the fuck out of this guy. So like, in another 3 years, I think you could run anybody as a Democrat and they will win the next election.
It's a good point. It's a really good point, to be honest. That vote blue, no matter who, movement will roar back into.
They just juke
life.
you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I put my money on Newsom, and the reason why is because people just outside of California just don't know enough about him to hate him as much as people who know him do. Right? He's got the
Californians.
He's got the good smile. Right? He seems like a competent dude. He's kind of this Obama disciple. Never mind, we watched him literally taking photo ops of personally taking down homeless camps and putting out weird pictures of himself reading like Beloved. And like and shit.
He'd
like,
be the first Democrat to lose California.
Right? Yeah, but this guy also, they were, putting forward a universal health care bill for the state of California, and he shot that down. No reason to do that other than a payout, from the pharmaceutical companies telling him don't fucking do that. So I think he's the one. He's kind of the dark horse right now because we're still early in it, and they're still being like, it's gonna be Kamala again, guys, and people are like, no. So I think they want to take people like forward like Pete and Hunter Biden and Kamala as sort of distractions to the fact that they're just going to ram him through. Like, you don't know enough about him. He's great. Trust us. Vote blue no matter who. It's anything's better than Trump. And he'll come out and say something articulate, and Trump will be like, dur, dur, dur. And then like that's basically what it'll come down to. I personally feel like we're 6 months in. Trump is old as dirt. He's dealing with so much. People are not forgetting about the Epstein stuff. Eventually, some shit is going to get leaked somewhere, somehow, that's really going to be significant. I don't think he can get out of this, and I think that's why he's hitting everything as hard as he can, as fast as he can, really going to town with doing awful shit to try to personally gain about it as much as they possibly can. Time Traveler in the chat asks, what about JFK's grandson putting himself out there? I say get the fucking Kennedys out of politics. The end. So, no more fucking Kennedys. None. No more. None.
I've seen the young Kennedy. I don't know.
I don't care if there's new ones. I don't care if they're like the old ones. I don't want to hear another Kennedy as long as I live. I'm done hearing about Kennedys.
It's never the people that seem obvious. Like, I would never would have thought that Kamala Harris, like, you saw her in the freaking primaries. You're like, oh, okay, it'd be like if you throw out Amy Klobuchar. It'd be like, really? That's the one? It's right. Always a Tim Kaine. You're like, who?
Right. Well, that goes back to what we were just talking about at the beginning of the hour. Who the fuck is Mike Flood? They throw this idiot out there with ambitions, right? You never heard of that guy. We never did. So
hey, he stuck to the script. He did not break.
Yeah, they throw this idiot out there to the wolves under the guise of we'll do for you let's shake hands, let's backslap, grease the palms, blah blah blah.
It's how you try to prove yourself. Like, look, I could do Senate maybe.
Prove yourself. Exactly. It's like gang initiation, honestly. Like everybody wants to talk about gang initiations, which is always that. Okay, like I just want to take a second and say, like, when we're talking about like murders and shit like that, and we're talking about crime, and you hear people say gang initiations, you don't hear it as much as you did in the 80s, but that is as phallus fake as occultist double worship murder shit. Like that is like they are in the same stupidity basket. Like that isn't a thing. I remember cops were coming into school telling us scary stories about the gang initiations of hiding under your car and would wait for women with high heels and cut their Achilles tendon. Did you guys get that one? Like,
I
yeah,
just
a
heard
person can fit under a car. Like, we're like, don't ask questions. So like cops
Ours
were
was the
coming
flashing lights at someone who has their lights off, and then they're gonna turn around and kill you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like the dumbest shit you could ever imagine. Urban legend nonsense. Where even if like you're like a kid in school during the DARE program, you're like, they're like, don't fucking ask questions.
Dare
right
is how I found out what drugs are. I had no idea what drugs were until they
now.
came
Right?
to my
Yeah.
school.
Like they're the ones that did it. Oh my god. There is a kid. This really did happen. This isn't an urban legend. I didn't personally witness it. It happened in like a neighboring class, but they did bring in these vacuum sealed. And I did see them.
Oh, they brought the actual drugs.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Well, they said like they were. I remember.
So
Okay.
hopefully they're fake. Jesus.
Well, I remember seeing they were vacuum sealed. Well, the weed looked fake for sure, or it was just leaf. It looked like it was just dried leaf.
Like
But they brought in a vacuum sealed thing, and they're like, "This is the marijuana." And then they brought in this white powder vacuum, and they're like, "This is the cocaine." And I'm like, "It's like this big. It's like you have a fucking key of cocaine you're just walking around with right now." Like, right? Yeah, right. Okay, so apparently in one of the neighboring classes, some cop idiot like dropped like on like for dramatic emphasis like dropped it like the cocaine on a kid's desk, but it opened and puffed, and it was. And they're like, "Oh, that didn't happen." So the DARE program for real winners. I really hope they don't do that shit anymore. But goddamn, that was we talked a lot about stupid school experiences unintentionally in it. But what we're Nathan Coyote says DARE made me want to do drugs. Like, yeah, it's really, they give me a free T-shirt and a stupid coloring book, and they're like, "Don't do drugs." You're like, "All right, bro, I'm gonna." So yeah, and then like probably like 2 or 3 years later, I'm like, "I'm doing drugs." So that's about, and I think probably everybody I knew had the same idea. I'm doing drugs in my DARE shirt. Oh, and that reminds me too. That just unlocked another memory. I've still got the T-shirt. We went through a program called GREAT, GREAT, Gang Resistance and Training. Gang Resistance and Training in like the whitest, white, dumb Christo-fascist. Like, you assholes are the gangs, okay? So yeah, I do somewhere I have the shirt still. I haven't seen it in a while, now come to think of it. But I do still have it. Gang Resistance and Training. So we went through that as well. And that's what the reason I brought it up is because like they were pumping us full of propaganda before we could fight it, or in public schools allowing them to do this, and did it really stop anything? I think there have been studies that have shown that DARE was utterly useless as a program, and I don't think people do it anymore, but I'm sure there's some sort of version. We also had like a abstinence training thing that we just destroyed because my class was we were monsters. We were utter monsters. But I encourage the youth to fight back, and I feel like the youth are now so much smarter and meaner than we were, and we were the worst that you could imagine. So I really hope that like they're not buying into the propaganda that we were being spoon fed. It's got to be so much worse though, because kids don't have an alternative. They don't have anywhere to turn to. They're just watching it's just YouTube all the time. I don't know. It just must be really hard to be a kid. It's really all I can think of at this point. And then obviously I can't even imagine the stress of immigrant children at this time. I'm really worried for their welfare, just because they are seeing family members being, if not just mistreated, then actually deported, if it goes that far. And there was a story recently on our local area about a mother with actual children and an actual baby, and she was being deported, but he was not, so he had to stay with the other older children, and she had to leave the country. Obviously that's not fucking right. We don't need to be right, left, center, whatever to know what's right and what's wrong. And at this point, when now the recent studies are showing that 60% of internet traffic are bots, right? AI bots who are either meant to engage you by telling you what you want to hear, or meant to engage you by insulting you, so you fight with them. And this is, being introduced by the tech companies who are allowing this to happen to keep you on their platforms. Now it just makes no sense to really talk to anybody, like you don't know and it's going to get more sophisticated. So we are well on our way to a dead internet. I don't know what the kids are going through, but I'm sure it's not good. Everybody's having a bad time of it. We're getting misinformation all the time mixed with real information. And right now we have this wannabe dictator who's in there because he was primed by all of these, going back to Clinton, like obviously Reagan, but with the neoliberalism, where he got rid of all these social programs and really pandered to the right and really moved the party to the right, and it's never come back.
Yeah, the only hope that I see with what I consider legitimate MAGA people who are voting with the intent of trying to actually do things in America. Like if you're quote America first, but actually, I don't have a ton of that's yes. I think we should improve American infrastructure using American stuff, and the biggest condition of that is to stop our weird international flood of wars and shit that we keep doing. So if you're an actual person who wants to get the country going, in a way, oh frick, I freaking lost what I was about to talk about. I had a point here. Your hope getting Trump into office is that he would just not go along with what seems to be the controlled demolition of the American working class, of most of us, like the American citizenry. And now that he has demonstrated that, the fun is over. We hit an Epstein file shaped wall apparently, and it's it. He's not gonna in another 3 months go, oh, I'm going to actually drain the swamp now. Here we go. He continues to have the swamp in his cabinet. He brought a lot of the same people that Trump fans were very critical of him having in his administration the first time around. They're just back again. Frickin' he won't get rid of Pam Bondi. We're
really
basically out of time.
The downfall, and that's why now he is responsible for it as the current figurehead.
He's just another Republican.
Yes.
The people you guys don't like.
Right.
The reason that you got the Tea Party going, the reason that the Libertarians have a frickin' foothold at all. People don't like the mainstream Republican Party because it just is the mainstream Democrat Party, and people don't like the Democrats for the exact same reason in reverse. And when the Civil War breaks out, that's the line. It's like the old school loyalists who want to preserve the old system, and people who want something else and know they aren't all going to start as communists, but that's how this shit gets going. They didn't start following Mao around because they loved communism so much. He was sitting there going, China first. We're gonna, your whole town is run by these 3 parasitic landlords. Let's deal with that, Chaka Khan. And then eventually you get a thing rolling, and it doesn't start with everyone loves socialism and hammer sickles so much. It's you see results, so then your shit grows. Those are the ones getting things done. So you end up following a guy through the mountains for 3 months, and then you come back and take over your whole country.
So trending right now on Twitter in all capital letters, release the Epstein files with 45,000 posts. And this is daily. This is constant. If you're watching the trending topics, they are always in some Trump pedo files. Trump is a pedo, unfit for office, Trump unfit, 45th Amendment. There, all these things, because that's not all bot traffic. I mean, a good amount of it's going to be bots arguing with bots. We can't ignore that.
He keeps saying nobody cares about this. Everybody cares. I talk to the most apolitical people who don't give a shit about any of this. They care about the Epstein files because it's at the heart of it is our government a bunch of fake puppets that are put in place and held in place to just vote yes on the wars forever. And the reason they do that is because they have child sex blackmail on them. And it's oh, yes, that is what it is. And we've known that actually for a long time. But our last hope, our release the files president guy, isn't doing it. He's not going to can't counter that. It's not that, is it? It is that. And we are being told that every day.
Yeah, and that's beyond politics. The reason this reaches so far beyond politics is because everybody hates pedophiles. Yeah, you have your people out there who want to. I'm being serious. You have your people out there who are like, no, they're people that need rehabilitation.
How do you argue against
blah, 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 blah. Okay, that is a very small sect of people who believe in that. Okay, if you Billy Eichner somebody and walk up to them on the street and be like, what do you think should happen to pedophiles? And be like, I think they should be fucking killed or sent into space or something. Like everybody's going to say that, right? That's going to happen every single time. Like probably 10 out of 10 times, people are like, I think you probably should just fucking kill him, to be honest.
That's why they gotta try
Everybody
and
hates
shove this in all these
pedophiles.
different directions. It is a unifying thing,
So,
and my fear is that they end the Epstein file shit by sacrificing a couple people. And that's probably how they could. That's how you could get Trump out of office. Be like, all right, we're gonna drop these things. Boom! Now you're actually getting convicted. In order to not disturb the money laundering operation, which is the Epstein cartel or whatever, like the true value of that is money laundering, and the child
right.
sex stuff is just the most conscious, shocking to normal people. So
Yeah.
they focus on that.
And a collection of compromise on,
Yeah.
a la Israel. And when I say compromise, that's just a blanket statement. That's what the Russians call getting blackmail, basically. But he very much, Epstein very much was an operative. I don't know if you call him Mossad exactly, but he was a high level operative in the Israeli government. Like an op, like a CIA agent would be here. Like that might be like someone on TV or an actor or somebody influential, right? So he was essentially performing the same function. Like now, yeah, they probably knew exactly what he was doing in the efforts he was going to, and don't care because they want their, they're like use child sex to get our blackmail essentially. And there was supposedly a closed system or a closed television system within the compound on the island or whatever. So there was blackmail being collected, and that was really Ghislaine Maxwell's function, was to. I don't necessarily feel like there's going to be an Excel spreadsheet of the list, right? But I do think that
They'll pull some select people.
That. Yeah, right. She's the black book, right? She was the procurer. She was the one that worked with them. She was the go-between. Like that was her function. Let's also not forget, she is also a sexual predator of children. She was also forcing these girls into sex with her. I don't want that to be eliminated from the conversation. It keeps getting buried, and they're burying the lead here. She was also doing it. Okay, also a sex predator. So I don't know. I'm hearing thunder or something horrible. I don't know what's going on.
It's almost too on the nose. But you look up, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a media mogul known for his controversial business practices. After his death, his publishing empire collapsed due to financial irregularities, including the discovery that he had embezzled millions of pounds from the company's pension funds. Like, she literally comes from a money laundering financial scam family. Like,
right.
All right.
Yeah.
My internet, I had a couple of like flickers here, and I want to be able to end while actually saying goodbye and not being kicked off of my internet.
Mine's getting kind of fucky too. And we've reached the end of the hour. So thank you everybody for being with us. Yeah, right. Yeah, we're both kind of having some issues here, so we need to go. Thank you everyone for being with us. They're sitting here for our rants. We appreciate you. We'll be back next week with whatever horrible thing is going on then, which is probably just more of this. As always, you can reach out to us on our socials. Twitter at numeral 1 social contract. DM us with any questions, comments, things you think that we should talk about, any stories and stuff. You can see our entire archive of shows on YouTube, our YouTube channel, as well as on Rumble. We are on Twitch. We love getting new followers. We love hearing from people. Again, we just run this by ourselves, so we don't, get anything for it. But we would love to be able to reach more people who feel disenfranchised from the system and want to move away and try to look to something else. So, again, thank you. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Try to hold it together, and let's get together about everything. So, goodbye, everybody. Thanks, and have a good week.